Hi there, and welcome to MiWeek. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Christy McDonald. You know, and just when you thought you'd seen it all in politics, you get the story of two Republican State House members, an affair, a bizarre cover-up, fired staffers, and it's all on tape. Coming up, the allegations, the denials, and what happens next for two of the most conservative members of the state legislature. Also, Donald Trump. His first big campaign stop since that crazy debate last week. Oh, and he's still leading the polls. We will take a look at how he grabbed Michigan voters this week. Plus, actress Melissa Gilbert wants Congressman Mike Bishop's job. Does she have a shot at winning the 8th district? And a key member of Governor Snyder's staff steps down. We will talk about that and other headlines this week. But we do start with the over-the-top plot coming out of Lansing that no one can stop talking about. By now, the details have made national news. Representatives Todd Courser of Lapeer and Cindy Gamrat of Plainwell are being investigated by the House Business Office, accused of using office staff to cover up their affair. Courser says he won't step down. Gamrat, well, she's nowhere to be found. So what happens next? We start here tonight with our MiWeek contributors, Nolan Finley of the Detroit News and Stephen Henderson of the Detroit Free Press. Gentlemen, you know, just when you thought you saw it all, and this story broke last Friday, and it's had so many twists and turns to it, and good grief, Nolan, where do we stand right now at this thing?
Well, you don't know where you stand right now because every day it gets a little weirder. Chad Livengood from our staff broke the story last Friday, and as is typically the case with political scandals, the original offense itself paled in comparison to the cover-up, and I got to tell you, this must be the most bizarre cover-up I've ever seen in my life. To cover up the affair, Courser tried to get his staff, her staff, Cindy Gamrat's staff, to send out an email smearing him for having sex with a gay prostitute in a parking lot in Lansing, thinking apparently that would be so over the top, people would not believe the accusations of the affair either. But the only problem with that is her husband caught them. I mean, this wasn't a theoretical affair. They were caught. Everybody in Lansing knew about it. And, you know, it was lumbering along until he got caught in this truly ridiculous cover-up that he keeps compounding. Now he says, you know, he's being blackmailed and there's black helicopters flying over his house and, you know, being bugged.
I mean, unhinged is the word that sort of describes Courser's reaction to the stories. I mean, the recorded statement that he made on Monday was really bizarre. The tone in his voice, the things that he was saying. I mean, this is somebody who's struggling with reality in a way that I think is frightening to watch, not just sort of sad. I mean, this is beyond a political issue. I mean, I think there's something personally troubling for this person and his grip on what's really happening.
You know, and they're going through now the computer servers, the documents, the emails, because apparently a word of this relationship, the fact that they had merged offices, that they were closely working together, and they seem to be out on an island compared to the rest of the Republicans in the state legislature, that's one thing. But engaging the staff in some kind of cover-up is what makes it totally different, Nolan.
Well, that's the offense. I mean, that's the actionable offense. The affair is, you know, tawdry, particularly given the fact that they came into office as the defenders of traditional marriage. And they were the loudest voices against gay rights, gay marriage, very moralistic in their tone in terms of the communiques. You read his communiques to his constituents, they were like a sermon. Hers were similar. And so when you set yourself up sort of as a moralist, you know, it's a hard fall when you get caught, you know,
okay, you know, based on what we know so far, and I guess you have to wait for the investigation for them to turn over whatever they have to the House Speaker, and then they could in turn turn it over to police. But Stephen, should the House expel them? They could do a 2/3 majority. They could bounce them out when they come back into session next week.
So
right?
I don't know. I mean, I think one of the things that's true about the legislature here is that they make their own rules in terms of who can be in and who's not. I think there's a pretty clear process for deciding when somebody has abused their office to the extent that they've got to be put out. I think you have to be really careful about that. Obviously, you don't want to set a standard that is too low. And in terms of the dollars involved here, my understanding is that this is probably not that much money that was misused in the sense of the resources used to try to do this. So I don't know if you put them out. I don't know if you put them out. I think they should resign. I mean, I think the decent thing to do is to say, you know, I've misrepresented the very values that I have been projecting as a public servant and moralizing to everyone else about, but B, I've also misused my office in a way to try to cover that up. So I should go.
But it seems that he has no
else.
plans to resign, Nolan.
Well, no, they're not going to resign, but you know, they're not alone out there. For the last, what, 6, 7, 8 months, we've had a senator sitting in the legislature who's charged with a felony.
It's very different.
Assault. And I think what makes it similar, I mean, Virgil Smith, accused of shooting at his wife's car, charged in Detroit with a felony, and now is making an insanity offense. I think that becomes then in the realm of opening him up from some sort of action. You've got a guy who says he's insane, and he's going to sit in the Senate as a voting member.
Well, I mean, I think he's saying that he meets the standard of insanity in that moment. I mean, the legal standard for that is not, well, I'm too crazy to be walking the streets.
His insanity is he claims he had a head injury that makes him do irrational things. Well, who knows when that's going to pop up on the legislature.
Hey, so meanwhile, we have no roads deal to speak of.
No. Well, they're coming back Tuesday. It'll be interesting to see if Gamrat and Courser show up on Tuesday. We haven't heard a word from her. To her credit, I mean, he's been sort of
he's talking too much.
Well, he's been sort of in the spotlight and taking the focus, and you know, her name is mentioned only peripherally now in this because of his antics, and she's been admirably quiet. But it's interesting. I mean, their fellow sort of Tea Party members had already started distancing themselves from them even before this scandal broke. And you know, when you said they're out there on an island, they very much are.
All right. Well, we'll watch and see how this continues to unfold, and hopefully we'll hear from her sometime soon.